Hi, everybody. My name is Gary Gomes. I'm here to talk to you about Vedic astrology and what it means to both you and the world overall. Um, this past week has been pretty interesting. But first of all, I'll give you my contact information. My phone number is 508-525-0001. That's in the United States for those of you who are overseas and or excuse me, or around the world. And You can also contact me at Gary Gomes G. That's Gary, um, Gomes G, the letter G, at gmail.com. A lot of G's there. And I'm a practicing Vedic astrologer. Been doing it for over 30 years. You can read my bio either online or on my Facebook page. And I'm also working partially with Saptarishi Astrology, working on my own school, working on readings for people. So I'm still a practicing astrologer. Not planning on going away anytime soon. And so we'll get right into the broadcast for this week extraordinarily quickly. And I'm just going to put the closed captioning on. Let me know if you like this or not. To be honest, I find it a little bit distracting, especially because um, my articulation is something I need to work on, and sometimes it gives me funny transcriptions, but sometimes it helps people too. So, all right, so we've had kind of an interesting week. Oh, by the way, please do um, subscribe, like, share. I I just joined Alignable. I've got a lot of contacts. If you'd like to look me up on Alignable, please do so. And That's the news as far as I'm concerned right now. So let's just get right to the report, to the actual chart, and see what's going on this week. All right, so we are going to have a big event later on this month. We're actually between eclipses. So the first one was around April, um, basically around the new moon, April 5th. And this next one will be around April. Roughly, we'll be feeling its effects strongly around April 19th to 21st. And I think it'll be kind of an interesting period. Again, the signs most affected by this eclipse are going to be Aries and Libra, mainly because the nodal points are in both those signs, the Rahu and Ketu, as are known in Indian astrology, are in those signs. And Rahu does tend to give. I'm just going to give like a really brief overview of the chart. So I'm doing this interpretation right now. It's around 9:48 in the morning in New Bedford, Massachusetts, United States of America. We have Mars is in Gemini, so there's a lot of ire going on in media around the world, not just in the United States. There's a lot of aggression. We're seeing it in protests in the United States, in France, in one interesting news story I saw is, I don't know how many of you know about a company called BlackRock, but it's apparently one of the largest, if not the largest, holding company in the world. And The French protesters, the ones who were protesting their pensions being taken away, just went inside the facility. So I found that fascinating. Apparently, BlackRock, I don't know the whole story, but apparently BlackRock is one of the companies which I don't know if it's responsible for Macron's um, decision to raise the pension age in France, or if it's just an actor that they're angry about. But in any event, it's a large corporation, perhaps one of the most powerful corporations on the planet. And they didn't attack, but they lobbied their headquarters. They actually invaded their headquarters uh, yesterday, I believe it was. And also, we've had a lot of. I'm going to mention this again because this is a recurring theme with me. Uh, be careful of the media, especially for the next couple of months, um, because you're going to get a lot of false information. Okay, based and this is and again, this is everybody. This is not just exclusive to the media giants or the legacy media or the right wing media or the independent news journalists. Basically, we have an interchange between Mars and Mercury, so be careful about what you believe from your friends. And also, there'll be a lot of conflating and out and out lying in the media over the next couple of months. So just be really take it with lying is perhaps too strong a word. Conflating is a fancy term for exaggeration. So essentially, over the next couple of months, watch for a lot of exaggeration over media, a lot of sacrifice of the truth. I think one of the things that we're looking at almost universally is attacks on governments. People being dissatisfied with governments, people wanting changes in governments. The Sun-Jupiter conjunction has actually set up a dynamic where governments are trying to hold on to established power. And that phase will end actually over the next couple of months, and you're already seeing some disruptions and some replacements of leaders, some resignations, some people leaving office. And you might actually, although I hope this isn't the case, might actually see some violent overthrows of governments in the next few months. Um, and that's mainly because of Jupiter going into Rahu. You'll also see authority figures. So by the end of the month, we're going to have two important events. We're going to have an eclipse and a change of signs of Jupiter, both occurring in really both affecting the same axis, the Aries Libra axis. So that'll affect trade. It'll cause what I would call an economic panic of sorts, and which will last for about, I give it until November until things settle down, to be honest with you. Not a good time for investments in general, unless you like risk. Not a good time for new business ventures, unless you're like really innovative companies and you're willing to put up with a lot of uncertainty. So novel ideas, novel approaches, teaching approaches are favored, especially people teaching new ways to do things or new technologies. That'll be good. The only problem is profits will not be seen really until sometime next year because Saturn's aspecting that Jupiter. And also down here, you will see some governments trying to hold on to power very, very aggressively. The moon is in the sixth house, excuse me. So there'll be a lot of attention on secrets and people keeping secrets and governments keeping secrets and just secrets in general. I, I had to laugh because I was just saying secret so much. But basically that's just for this week. The secret stuff is for this week. Actually, after late April, you're going to see um, a lot more truth, a lot more scandals exposed. So I wouldn't be at all surprised if we didn't see more Trump indictments over the next 6 months. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't see indictments or investigations into the Democrats as well, and even some possible impeachment proceedings on both the right and the left. And it's a little bit misleading in the United States because the United States tends to be a little bit more conservative than the rest of the world. But so essentially, really, if you're looking at the Democrats, you're looking at what in other countries would be called a mid-right part, a middle party, or a middle, and the Republicans would probably be considered. I wouldn't necessarily say extreme right because, but a populist right party. So extreme right tends to be conflated with big business, and although the Republican theme for years and years and years has been big business, it's starting to shift its thematic orientation towards populism, which will indirectly benefit big business, but it really won't automatically. So essentially, the Democratic Party is a party of the forward-moving establishment right now. I apologize. I don't want to offend anybody. And the Republican Party is essentially what we would call the disruptive party, or the party who wants to change things in either direction radically. One of the things I did predict, and I am starting to see it come together, is that media distrust is being felt on both the far right and the far left. So this is fascinating because I predicted this a few months ago, and I actually think you're going to see alliances develop between those two, the edges of the center, the non-mainstream, coming up more and more often because of they have mutual concerns about different topics, especially the press and any efforts to get into war. So I'm not arguing that war isn't justified. I'm just saying that these are positions of parties, and you'll see the same thing I think happening around the world. And this usually happens when the world is a little bit in trouble, when it goes to extreme places. But business should be stable for a little while, but like I said, around the end of April through May, I would say all the way through November, expect to see kind of a panicky state in business. Now, I'm going to go to the individual signs, okay, because I don't want to dwell too much on the worldly stuff. Venus is in the 12th house. That's not necessarily a bad placement. Venus is in its own sign, so that should actually help people save a little bit of money. But inflationary pressure will continue for at least another year and a half. So it doesn't look like we're going to get a break anytime soon. The other thing we're looking at over here is we have let me just K2's in Libra again. End of the year, K2 will move into Virgo. There'll be more focus on our health systems and on pharmaceutical industries. And Rahu will move into Pisces. There'll be more focus on government scandals connected with religion or spirituality. And that's sort of like, and also with academics. Okay, so you'll see big shifts in academics over the next year and a half. So I don't know what, and again, to be honest with you, this is Rahu we're talking about, Rahu going into Pisces. So Rahu could shift it towards a more progressive, woke, however you want to define those terms, direction, or a reversion to or a questioning of how colleges are run and how education is run in general in the United States. And I know certain of the words I use are trigger words. I'm just using it to reflect two sides. Okay, so progressive. Um, so I'm not necessarily. So don't think when I say woke, I'm a racist. That's not the idea. Oh, God, you have to be so careful nowadays. All right. And because I'm aware of the meanings that people attach to certain terms. That's why I'm trying to be careful. The other thing is, let me just see now. We have Mritu, which is an upagraha. And I haven't gone over these a whole lot, but upagrahas are really fascinating. They're like little planets. They're calculated points in space. And Arada in the first house with Mars, again, is communications. Uh, Mercury is Pranapada planet, and essentially that's a point in Aries. So there'll be a point in Aries which it has to do with gains. And I think, let me just see now, 1, 2. Okay, so you have Jupiter in the second house. So actually, people will be somewhat optimistic this month, which is good. Optimistic but fearful. An interesting combination. And K2 moon. Okay. And again, some disruption to the government because Kala is there. So it's like a double sun. So you'll see governments being more repressive or more aggressive with their citizenry. That's sort of like underlines that in big letters or in big long terms. Um, the other thing is we have, and again, I'm not going to talk about the merits or demerits of the Trump indictment. That's you're probably sick of seeing that. Um, I will go out and say this December might go to court, but doubtful he'll be found guilty. Extremely doubtful. Um, and that's just on the planetary positions. Um, that's not anything. Other cases that may come up, the Georgia case, and there's the Georgia case and the January 6th charges. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about those right now, at least astrologically. Okay, so I'm going to reserve judgment. We will talk in more detail about the eclipse and how it's going to affect people, but I can generally tell you that uh, there'll be shocks to businesses and shocks to leadership across the world. Um, now, that doesn't mean that these people are going to be thrown out of office. But again, when we have um, a combination, so we have Mars is far away from Rahu. Mars takes a while to go through signs. So let's say maybe in 6 months, um, no, maybe in about 8 months, you'll see some pretty aggressive um, political action around the world. So, like, and again, I don't think it's going to be a war. Okay, so for those of you who are worried about a war, it looks the timing does not look right in terms of the United States Mahadashas. So so that's at least some relief. Um, but I mean, will there be smaller conflicts? Yeah, definitely. Will we avoid escalation of war in the Ukraine? Um, I'm guardedly optimistic that we will. There'll be probably a peace treaty negotiated after April, but it'll be a little bit unstable, a little bit erratic. So let's go to the individual signs, the signs that affect you as individuals. and see what's going to happen. What's going to happen over the next week? What's going to happen? Yeah, I want to take college, sure. All right. So, all right. So it doesn't mean I learned how to speak there. All right. All right. So the chart has okay, so Aries is a little bit afflicted, a little bit strong desire nature this month. This is April 15th to May 15th. It'll bring in some money, and it'll be very quick thinking and very aggressive in pursuing what it wants to do. But it'll also cause some disruption with relationship partners because relationship partners will want to spend the money, and they'll also be a little bit depressed that they can't do more of what they want to do. The Moon Venus opposition is actually kind of interesting because that tends to make people a little bit uh, overly sexual. The Venus Moon and Venus Mars conjunctions are really the things that trigger sexual reactions in Venus. So at least from this chart, have Venus Moon opposition, but there'll be a little bit of sadness, and you'll actually see some relationships breaking up next month, unfortunately. Um, so so let's go over here. So the seventh house has K2 in it, and that'll cause communication problems for Aries in relationships. And Saturn's aspecting the moon, so there'll be a lot of attention focused on celebrities and focused on that world. Sun and Jupiter are also in government. Sun and Jupiter are, so this will be for Aries. My apologies for not clarifying that. Sun is about to enter Aries. It's only a few days away. That'll make government much more aggressive, but it'll also make Aries, the sign, much more aggressive, much more confident. By the way, happy Easter to those of you who celebrate Easter. And this Sun Jupiter, the Sun um, presence in Aries will make Aries extremely confident, so confident it will be prepared to um, misrepresent itself to get its own way. It'll be very aggressive. So that'll happen over the next week. So we're around 5 days away from it. So towards the end of next week, you'll see a lot of energy, a lot of action. In terms of Taurus, sorry for interjecting the world stuff with the horoscope. I'll try to avoid doing that with the other signs. Venus is in Taurus, so that's a good placement for Venus. So again, people with Taurus, May 15th to June 15th, will be focusing on spending a lot of money on appearances, maybe wasteful expenditures on clothes, but they'll feel very comfortable, very confident with themselves. They may be prone to illnesses and obsessive spending, but also Moon will be in the seventh house, so relationship partners won't be happy with that, but they will be loyal. And Saturn goes in the 10th house. This is very good for career for this sign. Aries, by the way, is going to have a good career month as well. Basically going back to that previous sign, and it'll have some financial savings. But Taurus looks like the star this month in terms of financial gains and financial well-being. So Aries will make money and spend it. Taurus will make money and spend it, but Taurus will make more money than Aries. For Gemini rising, Gemini Lugna, they call it in India. Mars is in the first house. Mars is not comfortable in Gemini. So we're fighting a lot with words right now. Okay. So again, expect relationships to be a little bit critical, a little bit dicey. There are two signs connected with relationships in the chart. One is Gemini and one is Libra. Gemini is a little bit more fickle than Libra is, and Libra has more to do with Actually, Gemini has more to do with romantic relationships than Libra does, despite the popular myths to the contrary. But they're also passionate, fleeting, low attention span relationships. So um, if you feel strongly about somebody over the next couple of months, be prepared for those feelings to shift around June, just because, and this is June 15th to July 15th, because Mars will be entering a different sign, and it'll cause fights in the relationship. But it'll also cause a great deal of arguments with words right now for this sign. The second house Lord is in the sixth house. So again, the sign has to watch out for the foods it eats, uh, allergic reactions to foods, things like that. And also K2's in the fifth house. So children will be a little bit difficult to deal with, a little bit headstrong, a little bit awkward, but basically, and a little bit temperamental and moody, but not necessarily all that bad. Venus is in a good sign, so it'll sort of like hide that behavior away. Moon is in the sixth house. We've already discussed that, so be careful what you eat over the next few days. Saturn is in the ninth house, a good thing for this sign, but again, slow progress. Every bit of luck you attain, you have to fight for. So it's good, and it'll allow you to bring innovative things to your workplace or new ideas. But again, expect to get pushback or resistance. And Sun and Jupiter in the 10th house, very good for career prominence. Now, Sun and Jupiter are really close together. Jupiter is combust right now. So that's one of the reasons why I was just trying to think of it. Good judgment seems to have gone out the window. So essentially, don't. I was just trying to think of advice I can give about this. Great time for worshiping God. Great time for reading ethical works. Great time for study. Great time for spiritual pursuits. Not so great for gambling on investments or for withdrawing support from investments. Okay, so that combustion will last for about at least another couple of weeks. Okay, so just be aware the next couple of weeks aren't good times for new investments. Or for that matter, new jobs. But if you're desperate for a job, you take the job. Rahu and Mercury are in the 11th house. That's very good for financial growth. Venus is in the 12th, good for savings. But again, there will be a lot of expenditures on beauty and on education. For Cancer, Cancer has these two benefic upagrahas. That's Yamagasika is like Jupiter and Kodanda is like Venus. So this will give some fights over what the right path to pursue is on a subconscious level, but they won't be as big as major planets like Venus. There is some worry connected with the sign. There's some luck. So a lot of people who studied and prepared for periods like this, they'll do fine. A lot of other people will be worried they haven't prepared well enough, and that's okay. So nothing's going to be taken away from you. As a matter of fact, you'll get help from people within a couple of days. And you'll be ready to transform your life towards the end of the week. So that's good news. The other area I want to focus on with Cancer is we have Ketu in the fifth and the fourth house, and Rahu in the 10th house. So there'll be a little bit of obsession with being heard in career matters. And Moon is in the fifth house. So again, children will be a little bit depressed towards the beginning of the week. They'll feel fine more towards the end of the week and come out of it by the end of the week. Saturn is in the eighth house. Good time for research. Some good things happening in relationship life because Saturn will actually stabilize your financial situation, which is a good thing. Jupiter and Sun but again, if you see any signs of chronic illness, get it taken care of right away because that placement is rough for that. So if you have symptoms that won't go away or things like that, get it checked out. Sun and Jupiter are in the ninth house. Um, so this and that's again very good for religion and very good for spiritual life. 10th house has Rahu and Mercury, and we already discussed that. And Venus is in the 11th house, so it should be good for gains. But the only drawback to this chart is Mars, which is a good planet for Cancer rising. It's very weak. So gains from children and to a certain extent career will be limited really for about another month or so. Okay. For Leo, Leo has good potential for financial gain um, from unexpected resources that'll increase over the next month or so. The only thing I'd encourage Leo to do is not be overly optimistic about financial gains. Just try to rein it in a little bit. But there is some money coming for Leo. For K2 in the third house, the sign is brave, courageous, willing to do what it takes to win. Moon is in the fourth house, so there'll be some sadness or anxiety at home. Venus is in the 10th house, a lot of happiness with career, a lot of opportunities for increasing financial growth. Mars in the 11th house actually is really, really good for this rising sign. And Saturn in the 7th house actually does things like make the sign more popular to the world. So this is between August 15th and September 15th. Probably a good time for them to expand and make themselves known, especially towards the end of the week when Sun enters Aries. Okay. And for Virgo has Mercury in the 8th house. So we have a lot of 8th house activity. That means hidden problems or chronic problems. So Virgo has Mercury in the 8th house with Rahu. So that'll make this sign feel a little bit like it's unheard or it's being asked to do too much. But its luck is actually quite good. Sun and Jupiter in the 7th house, even though Jupiter's in combustion, so its full effects can't be experienced, is still a good placement. It's very good for religious activities, very good for spiritual activities. Venus is in the 9th house. That's an extremely favorable planet for money for this sign. And it needs that help because of K2 being the 2nd house for the next, right now it's about 6 to 7 months or so. Moon is in the 3rd house, so there's a little bit of hesitation to go through with your ambitions or dreams. Saturn's in the 6th house, so this sign's willing to work this month, and it's willing to work on communications and work on new ways to express itself and also do a lot of research. Mars is in the 10th house, a lot of ambition, a lot more drive, a lot more eagerness to be social and to be out there and doing things. It'll be fought a little bit just because it's Mercury, and Mercury's going to be kind of tricky over the next couple of months. But you'll still manage to make an impact on some people. For Libra has, I'm just checking this out. Libra has K2 in the 1st house. Now, again, this is kind of a mixed blessing for this sign. So Libra in the 1st house, hunches are almost always right. Intuition is almost always right, but people ignore you. It's just really, I don't know if anybody's heard of Cassandra. Cassandra was, I think it was Cassandra. Was it Cassandra? Yeah, Cassandra was a prophetess who was always right, but was cursed by the gods, and nobody would believe her. So it's a little bit of a Cassandra thing happening here, where the intuition is really sharp. The only other problem, though, is that Librans will tend to be attacked by all sorts of like difficult to diagnose medical problems. And when I see that, they'll be like weird symptoms that'll show up. Uh, K2's Libra's Lord is in the eighth house, so there'll be a lot of problems with digestion. You know, that's continued really for about the past. That's been the case for about the past 3 weeks, but it's really hitting right now. Libra is one of the signs between the intestines and uh, the elimination organs, so people will have problems, with digestive issues just in general, but just in general, but K2 in this particular sign will, so your instincts, mark down your instincts, record them, save them up for future action, because you're not going to be in the background for that much longer. And Moon is in the second house, so there is some anxiety about money. Saturn's also aspecting that moon, that increases that anxiety, and it kind of locks the person into their home a little bit. Jupiter and Sun are in the fifth house, very good for learning, very good for activating intelligence, especially about making money. So this particular sign, this is the fifth house of past life credits, so things you've done in previous lifetimes, which you accrue and which you benefit from in this lifetime. This is just a chart for the moment, so I realize I'm kind of overemphasizing this. But for Librans, it's actually a good time for them to study, build things, and also uh, learn new things, and also engage in spiritual practices. Rahu and Mercury relationship partners will be a bit changeable, a bit difficult to please. That's been par for the course for the sign, but they'll be more communicative about it. Uh, Mars is in the ninth. That's a good placement for money. So these are two good money planets. Both the Sun and even Saturn in this chart is good for financial growth, and Mars being placed in the ninth house are very good for financial improvement. There is a worry about career for the sign, but that'll pass within a few days. Scorpio has Moon in the first house. Now, this is from October 15th to November 15th. So relationship life will be pleasant, but the person will also worry about relationship life. Isn't that interesting? Saturn's in the fourth house, so there'll be a lot of stability at home. The person will feel like being a homebody a great deal. And this is for people who have like important planets placed in that sign too. But that's a little bit more detail than we're prepared to get into right now. The other thing is we have a Sun and Jupiter conjunction in the fifth house. So again, good for learning, good for studies, especially good for occult studies or metaphysical studies or research, because the fifth, because Mars is in the eighth. Also, research about real estate is a good idea. Sixth house Lord is in the eighth house. So that's what's called the Vipreet Raj Yoga. That means the negative effects of the sixth house and the eighth house cancel each other out. So you'll actually get some good results from after some initial difficulties from these two planetary placements. So in terms of land, in terms of land acquisition, or even property, or even you'll even get deals on oil or gasoline. That may sound funny, but that's true. Venus is in the seventh house. Relationship life is nice, but there will be temptations out there for you, so just be careful about that. And this is one of the signs which may have maybe in danger relationship wise after November this year. And so it's Taurus and Scorpio. And let's see now, Mars is in the eighth. We already discussed that. And K2 is in his 12th. So again, good for religious activities. Watch out for expenditures. Watch out for thieves. Okay. For Sagittarius, Sagittarius has hidden allies or devious allies. That's Saturn's in the third house. Oh, I'm sorry, the Lord of Sagittarius is in the fourth house. So there'll be this sign will feel the need to dominate others, even if it's not really in its best interest to do so. So that's kind of a warning to the United States government, to be a little bit less aggressive. But that's again, I said I wouldn't do that. But again, Sagittarians should guard against being aggressive unless they can point to some kind of financial gain for themselves or some kind of home improvement or improvement in home life or some kind of mission to help themselves out. So this sign will be abnormally aggressive because of Mars in the seventh house, hitting the first house. Rahu, and also, although I've not explained what these are. Hi, I'm doing my show.
Okay, do you want to go down the store today or just skip it?
It's up to you, Jeannie. I feel fine. Do you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you not feel good?
No, I feel all right, but
Well, we can make it lesser. It doesn't have.
why don't we just skip today, okay?
You don't want to go down. Okay, that's fine.
All right, I'm gonna call her. Bye.
All right. Bye. Yeah. Sorry about that, folks. So that's what the moon in Scorpio will do. All right. All right. So and so you actually had a real-time demonstration of what the moon in Scorpio will do, and also what being tied to the home looks like. All right, so so let's see now. So I hope you enjoyed that. I enjoyed that a lot. Um, Sun and Jupiter are 1, 2, 3, 4 in the fifth house. So this is really more. It's interesting. It occurs on each year because for Christians, it's really the most important day of the year. And so it symbolizes Christ rising from the dead, and it's just more of an ethical. So essentially, it's good for religious activities, not quite so good for other activities, and also it's good for self-promotion. If you're interested in promoting yourself, this is a great time to do it for Sagittarius. K2's in the 11th house. That's again, I warned about that before for Sagittarius. Just be careful. Rahu's in the 5th, along with Mercury, good for financial gains. Venus is in the 6th. Again, some problems with eating too rich foods, which again is consistent with Easter in the United States and across the world. But again, I think we can bear a little bit of that. For Capricorn, let's go into Capricorn. Let me get out of Sagittarius and the interruption and the change of schedules. Capricorn is Lord is in the second house, so there's a lot of focus on money, financial progress, innovation, maybe changing of financial markets, maybe reform of financial markets. And a lot of Western astrologers attribute this to Pluto. I don't. I attribute this to Saturn entering Aquarius. Yeah, it doesn't matter long term. They both have sort of the same effect, and you have what I would call a multi-referential accuracy of astrology across different systems. So that means that you'll see one thing from one system and you'll see the other thing from another system, and they'll agree. It's just So essentially that Saturn in the second house will bring about some financial reforms probably over the next couple of years, but it'll also make this sign look at more ways to make money or survive. Sun and Jupiter in the third house, this sign will be kind of aggressive, especially in terms um, of uh, of investments. Um, I'm cautioning people to be careful about investments but for this sign, it's not quite so bad. For Capricorn, it's not quite so bad. Since the sun's the eighth house lord, they might get some benefits from the government. So that's actually reflects the bank bailouts, but the sign itself, locally, you'll get some benefits from government. Yeah.
Hi, Gary. I just talked to her. I told her we went out to eat and our stomach was upset.
Okay.
Okay, so we can stay home today?
Yeah, sure.
You sure?
Yes, Sheeny, I'm recording.
All right, love you.
Love
Bye.
you too. Bye-bye. All right. And that's actually not far from the truth. All right. So we have, um, my apologies for the interruptions. Um, and so we have that Sun and Jupiter aspect will bring in some benefits to you, especially from the government, especially from things you've forgotten about. So investments you perhaps made, or some projects you put on the back burner, and you can take up again. Rahu and Mercury are in the fourth house, so again there'll be some disruption or problems with home life. K2's in the 10th. You'll see a few issues with career life. That's not uncommon for the sign, but that's going to happen until around November. Venus is in the fifth house. I'm sorry, Venus is in the fifth house in the chart. That actually is good for financial growth for the sign. Mars is in the sixth house, good for overcoming enemies, although you will get some tough ones. And Moon is in the 11th house. So there'll be some gains, but there'll also be some worries about how consistent they are. Those worries will pass by Monday, by Tuesday, Wednesday. Now for Aquarius, we have Saturn's in the first house. Again, Aquarius tends to be really wanting to be in charge. So there's a strong desire for reform or realignment, a strong desire for little government control with Saturn and Aquarius. But it's almost like this competition between wanting to automate things and or innovate things, and also wanting people not to interfere with you when you're doing it. So I think we're going to see that in society overall, but especially for this sign this month. And this sign will be very aggressive in terms of how it expresses itself this month, which is kind of unusual for the sign. It'll be more verbose. Venus is in the fourth house, Rahu and Mercury in the third house. So it'll be very talkative. It'll be very expressive. It'll not be afraid to um, lie a little bit to further its means, which is very unusual for the sign. And it'll actually get some credit from real estate investments um, or from and again, I realize a lot of people don't have real estate investments, or from currencies, or else even from small favors from children in the family. Okay, Venus is in the fourth house. That's very good. Venus is, so we have two. We have actually three strong combinations in the chart. You have Saturn in Aquarius, Jupiter in Pisces, and Venus in Taurus, which are like really favorable combinations. Saturn not so much, but Venus. But this is Saturn's preferred sign, and Venus is in. So it'll make a peaceful and placid home life. People will feel calm. they'll feel self-assured. K2's in the ninth. So again, luck from education, luck. You're going to have to go it alone educationally, this sign. You're not going to get a lot of institutional support, but that's fine. This sign doesn't necessarily need a lot of that. And the moon, again, some anxiety about career life, but again, that'll pass within a couple of days. You'll start to feel much more solid. So not a bad week for Aquarius. Some problems essentially in terms of support from either the government or from institutions. Some costs connected with government, but not overall, not a bad placement. And I'm saying this right before tax season, so maybe be prepared to pay out a little bit if you're Aquarius, but not so much as Scorpio, to be honest with you. All right, so let's go to, so again, I don't want to worry anybody. Everybody's chart is different, okay? I'm just looking at general tendencies, so it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to pay out. Just be cautious about that. It's easy to make mistakes with government documents with this placement. Finally, Pisces. Pisces has Sun and Jupiter in the first house. 10th house is obsessed with career, obsessed with opponents in career. Rahu and Mercury are in the second house, a lot of defense, a lot of having to defend oneself against home problems. Venus is in the third house, a little bit of hesitancy to act. Moon is in K2's in the eighth house, so again, exploring topics of interest to you, maybe aesthetic topics or spiritual topics, maybe even investments, but don't act on them just yet. Moon is in the ninth house, so some change of luck. You'll see change in luck and direction and some financial gains towards the end of the week. So that's it for our individual signs. Now let's look at the global map. I don't have a lot of time to look at this right now, fortunately. All right, so we have, okay, so the signs, the places I worry about is we have a Moon-Saturn sign, a Moon-Saturn conjunction close to, looks like, I think that's Wake Island down there, I'm not sure. And also Saturn passing through Hawaii. So I think they're going to get a lot of inflationary pressure in Hawaii, which is not surprising given their location and given the fact they have to import. A lot of problems with government in between California, Vancouver, Arizona, New Mexico, Arizona. I'm sorry, New Mexico. That's Arizona. My apologies. And down into Mexico. The other spot I look out for like bad news, especially connected with flooding or natural catastrophes, is through all the way from Montana all the way through that belt down to Louisiana, and all the way down actually into Nicaragua and Central America and maybe even hitting Cuba. There's a Saturn-Venus line, and also watch out for suppression of individual rights. We're already hearing about some of this in Peru and in South American countries in general. Left-wing governments be under attack down there. One of the left-wing governments, I believe it's in Peru, is under attack down there. Saturn's going through Venezuela, and there's a Venus line. I'm sorry, there's a Saturn-Venus line running through down through Colombia. I'm sorry, Colombia and Bolivia and into Argentina and Chile. So a lot of the governments on the west coast of India, South America, will be under attack. Also, even Venezuela. Some conflicts on the East Coast, especially around Maine, and the entire East Coast will be affected by that Saturn line. So this will be kind of an impressive time for government. We have a Saturn-Jupiter line right over the Canaries, and I think it's the Canaries, my apologies, and the Azores, and also some government scandal coming out in West Africa, Portugal, Ireland, England, all the way through France. So France will remain where it has been over the past few months, and I think it'll get a little bit nastier over the next couple of weeks. There is supposed to be a court hearing on the Macron retirement thing, so that may resolve it, but it may make things worse. I'm tending to think it'll make things worse. Venus is passing over Germany and uh, and down near Gabon and to the west coast of South Africa and near South Africa. So this is Zimbabwe, I believe, over here. I should really do a better. I have a map. Hold on. That would help, you know. Mauritania, Liberia, Mali. Okay. And if we go down to South Africa, Angola, Namibia, um, will all be affected by that particular line. That was my golden globe. I'll show it to you someday. And so there'll be flooding. There'll also be some kinds of natural catastrophes in Sweden, Germany, Italy, down through this region, all the way down to the bottom of Africa. There's a satellite running through South Africa, which doesn't look too good for it. Mars is running through, so the conflict in Ukraine, Saudi Arabia will continue. Turkey is actually untouched by this. Eastern Europe's untouched for the first time in a long time that I've seen. And over here, there'll be elections in Turkey pretty soon, so we'll see what those results are. And over here, we have Sun and Jupiter passing through Pakistan and Afghanistan and Pakistan, and also India. Now, India has been going through a period in which there have been increasing suppressions of civil liberties. So we're going to look at that country a lot. There's a Rahu line going over here that may cause some rebellions in Bengal or even affect Sri Lanka to a certain extent. Sri Lankan government has been in a lot of trouble over the past few months. But India is there will be some civil unrest in India. You know, that's almost guaranteed. And so the conservative government, Mr. Modi's government, is going to be, I won't say they'll be in trouble, they'll be under attack though. And let's see now, and they're fighting back. You know, it's interesting because it's so I'm not coming out either pro or con. I'm just reporting what's happening. And let's see now, we have a Rahu moon line passing over China, Vietnam, and far eastern Russia. Now, China and Vietnam are more problematic than because this is close to the centers of commerce in those regions, and there's also a Saturn line. So China is still in kind of a closed economy mode right now. So I'm a little bit worried about them and what kind of pressures I'll put on them and what kind of results they'll have. Mars is running through Australia. So I'm worried about poverty. I'm worried about, people not getting enough to eat. And finally, Mars is running through Australia and Mercury's running through New Zealand. So we'll have some kind of governmental panic in New Zealand. There's some kind of news coming out of New Zealand. That's it for me. I ran a little bit over. I love you all, and I'll see you next week. Thanks a lot, folks.